Welcome, welcome, welcome to the SubHub podcast. I'm MK Sullivan. Danny is not with us for this interview. She's getting married in a couple of days, so I figured I'd give her the day off. But today with us, with me, not us. Wow. I'm missing her already. I have Brittany Charboneau. Brittany is your 2023 USATF Marathon Trail Champion as of last weekend when she won the Breakneck Point Marathon, which also qualified her for the short trail team in Austria in just a couple of weeks. Brittany has run 2:33 in the marathon. She's a 2020 Olympic Trials qualifier. Shortly after that, she won the Dopey Challenge, which is an event that happens at Disney every year. And she won the 5K, the 10K, the half, and the marathon, all back to back, which is crazy. And then shortly after that, she was the winner of the Lake Sonoma 50 miler in 2022. She was second to Jen Lichter, who is also on the short trail team this year at Broken Arrow last year. And she represented Team USA in Thailand for the Long Trail 80K team. Welcome, Brittany.
Thanks. Holy smokes. That's quite the intro.
Oh, man. Sometimes I am reading them and I'm like, does this even make sense? But
that's why I'm like, hope that checks out.
Hopefully those are all Brittany's results.
Yeah, right.
Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Breakneck, because I have read a couple of your Instagram posts following the run, talking about how you were worried that you weren't going to do very well because it's a super technical course. But obviously it went pretty well for you. So give us the rundown.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I had gone into it. I think, so I've really only been racing trail for the past, it's been about 3 years now, really. I really got into it after trials in 2020 because everything shut down right after trials in 2020 on the roads. So I just started to hit the trails. So my background is primarily in road racing. And those are typically the trails that I have liked to do are the faster, a little more rolly, a little more groomed. I mean, we get so spoiled with our trails here in Colorado until you go other places. You're like, oh my gosh, we're so spoiled with our like smooth trails.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd heard how technical. So Breakneck wasn't on my radar this year, and I can talk about that also. But so I was a little bit intimidated by the climbing. And then I just had categorized myself as not a technical runner or not great at it. So I had gone into Breakneck thinking I'm going to do what I can. But I'm just not a great technical runner. But right as I started to get on the course, I was like, this reminds me exactly of a million trails I do at home when I'm practicing my power hiking, my steep climbs. And I was like, no, I can do this. I've done this 1,000 times at home. So it was really just kind of trying to convince myself that nope, I belong here. I can do this. And just kind of trusting myself and just having fun with it. So, and then it ended up, a great day. So I was really, really proud of myself for that race. I mean, of course the win was wonderful, but I think I was just really proud of myself because that was by far the gnarliest course I've ever gotten to run. So I think that was a big boost of confidence, especially before we head to Austria.
Yeah, because the course had a little bit over 8,000 feet of gain, right?
Almost 9.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the race in Austria that we're running is somewhere around 11,000 feet of gain. So yes, that was a really good qualifier race.
Yeah. I would have loved a little bit more space between Breakneck and Worlds, but I mean, it is what it is. So
you just got to recover really well and use the fitness that you already have,
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Brittany's, as many people who listen to this podcast know, is going to be my teammate. So I'm stoked about this women's team that we have put together.
It is stacked.
Yeah.
It's so stacked. What a lineup that we have, just depth in this team. And I think what a great story for women's trail racing. I think it's the more that we can I really think between all of our teams for the women's side, especially, it's just man, what a great opportunity this is just to kind of keep elevating the sport and elevating all these women up and coming runners too.
Yeah, definitely. And just a reminder for the listeners, the women's 40K team is myself, Brittany, Kimber Maddox, Claire Rhodes, Bailey Kowalczyk, and Jennifer Lichter. So great lineup. I'm stoked to race with all of you guys. It's going to be a blast. And we leave in just like 2 short weeks.
Like a few weeks. And pre-podcast episode, we chatted about our nails and how we're going to have USA nails. So that's very important.
Yeah. Yes. Have you gotten your uniform yet?
I have from last year from Thailand.
Right.
So I have it. Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm in the process of ordering. I'm getting like hair, like colorful hair pieces that I'm going to be obviously incorporating in. So that's the next piece of very important tasks pre-race.
I love it. Yes. And we all have matching sunglasses as well. So we'll see. Those might just be for pictures, but who knows?
They're going to be for pictures.
So you're based in Colorado. Where in Colorado do you live?
I'm in Denver.
Okay. And are you there for work mostly, or did you move to Denver to train?
Nope. I'm born and raised from Denver. So this is my hometown, and I run full time. And then I'm also a running coach full time as well. So this is where I train. This is where I coach. So kind of all in this area.
Cool. And do you yourself have a coach, or are you self-coached?
I do. I have a coach who is amazing. Her name is Jenny Neddick, and she is with Mercuria Running here in Denver. And she's been with me, I've been with her, I should say, since 2017. And she is amazing. She's had her business for like 10 years, but she has an art background. So she graduated from art school at Carnegie Mellon. So she's been really, really pivotal in my training, just of giving me permission to just be my big, weird, artsy, glittery self. So I really attribute a lot to her of just, yes, she's there helping me with all of my running pieces, but kind of more so just helping build my confidence in who I am as a person and letting that kind of come out in my training. So it's been a fun journey with her for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. I noticed on Instagram that you do a lot of running in costumes.
Lots of running in costume.
How did that start? Was that a thing that you did when you were also running marathons, or is that just like a trail persona?
Not as much. I'm trying to think. I did a little bit when I was running road. But I think on the road scene, I was, especially when I first started racing elite, I was just trying to fit in so hard. And I was just desperately trying to be just like the other women that I saw. And I was just, that was just I'm glad I went through that, because I feel like it's now helping me own myself on the trails and on the roads and stuff like that still. But I think I've always kind of been in that costumey genre. So my background is also in comedy. So I studied comedy in Chicago and had my own one-woman show for a while. That was about my running. So I've always really loved performing. I've loved costumes. I've loved taking on a different persona in different ways and different characters and things like that. So I've kind of always had that in my background. But as I've started to evolve in my running and kind of doing things my weird way, and it's working for me, I've kind of just really started to embrace it and had a little bit more freedom to play with different pieces of that creativity in my training and racing. And so it's kind of been maybe in the last few years, I've really kind of stepped into it and just owned it and not been afraid to just put myself out there where I was definitely afraid in the past, especially on the road scene.
Yeah. The road scene is so I don't want to say that it's not welcoming, because it is in some ways, but I also moved from the track road scene to the trail scene. And it's such a different energy that you find with the trail community. People just want to be friends. They want to help you out. Totally. And so I can totally see where you feel more comfortable just being you out there.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the trail scene is just a bunch of misfit toys a little bit, but just the best human beings ever that are really not afraid to be themselves. And I feel the same way. I feel I remember my very first trail race was the Leadville Heavy Half, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was coming from road, had no idea. So I'm leading the race, and I come down off of one of the main climbs coming down, and everyone was cheering for me, including the other women. And I remember just being so shocked, because I was why are they cheering for me? That would not happen on the road scene. And it was just wow, if this is what the trail world is about, I'm in. Like it was just the raddest experience because it really is so supportive and it really does feel very genuine. So man, I can't say enough good things about the trail scene. And even like on the elite side, I think that that's really important is like, there's just such great support, especially with women, that it's just like, man, yes, we can all like build each other up and, you know, do this together and it doesn't have to be this cutthroat vibe.
Yeah. My very first like trail race where I was like kind of in the elite pack was Way Too Cool, I think in 2018. And like similar kind of experience where I was just running with Brittany Peterson because I'd never run a 50K before. So I was just like, this girl's good. I'll just hang on her. And I think at like mile 20, she looked at me and she said, hey, I'm having a really like rough day. If you have anything, you should go right now. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I left her and I was like, that was so nice for her to just be like, today's not my day, but girl, you got to get moving.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. That doesn't happen in the road scene.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's certainly there's more money on the line. There's more PR. I think there's probably a lot more stakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of get that vibe as well.
Yeah, it's so cool. And where can we find this one woman show about your running journey?
Well, it doesn't exist anymore. So I had it out in 2018. Like right after I had first qualified for trials. It was here in Denver, and then I took it to Chicago for a little bit, but it doesn't exist right now. But I do have a vision in the future of like revamping it, bringing it back, or doing another version of it, something like that. So in the meantime, I'm doing very random, no purpose music videos. So I'm working on one right now that's a parody to Under the Sea. So you can expect that to come out.
Okay. And is this on YouTube?
Probably post-world. Yeah.
I'm excited.
I have the presidential first ladies rap that's on YouTube that exists. Like, it's weird. So
we'll have to put your YouTube channel in the show links.
Okay. So I love that. And I apologize to anybody that wastes their time on it too.
I'm going to go waste my time on it for sure.
Good. We should be in a music video together at World. So be rad.
Yes. I'm into it. So last year you were on the long trail team, which is the 80K distance. So what kind of made you shift this year to focusing on making the 40K team?
I hated it last year. Hated it. It was awful. So I did the Lake Sonoma 50 miler was my very first. I'll back up a teeny tiny bit. So I did the Dopey challenge. And that total distance was 48 miles over 4 days. And so I was like, well, if I did 48 miles over 4 days, I could do 50 miles in one day. Like that would be my next challenge. So I picked Sonoma because it was a gentler 50 miler, things like that. And I was just like, I'll just kind of see what I can do out there. And did well. I won that. And so then they had the qualifier I just wanted to make the team regardless of what team I got on. So I ended up doing Broken Arrow 50K and made a spot on the 80K team from that race. And things just kind of went downhill for me from there, to be honest. I think I had just gotten so stressed out. The training was really challenging for me. I didn't really enjoy that long distance training. I was so nervous about, number one, the distance, first time being on a world's team, the elevation gain. It was like 16,000 feet, which was by far my biggest climbing I'd ever done in my life. Certainly the weather in Thailand, it was hot and humid. And I was just in a bad spot mentally. Like I had just kind of like hit a really rough patch for that. So, I kind of just was like, I was just a dream of mine since I was little to be representing Team USA. And so I was just like, this is an opportunity. I'm just going to do it. But looking back, I'm so glad I had the experience, but it was so not that's not really my genre that I really thrive in, is that longer stuff. Like I really feel like my best distances are the marathon and 50K distances. So that was where I was just kind of excited. So I actually had qualified. So being on this world's team for Austria was not on my radar this year because I qualified and ran the US 50K championships on road in March. So that will be in November in India. it was supposed to be at the end of this month in South Africa, but it got canceled. So it kind of just opened up a slot in my early spring. And I was like, well, I'll just kind of take that 50K fitness. I'll race Breakneck and see what can happen if I make that team sick. But if not, like great opportunity to just race trail and then do something else. So kind of just all happened to fall together, but I knew I just didn't want to go back to the 50-mile 80K distance. That is just not my jam.
Yeah. Well, you crushed it Breakneck. So it definitely worked out. I didn't realize that the road 50K champs had been moved. I missed that.
I don't know when, or I want to say probably because it's not quite the safest place in South Africa at the moment. So I think that that's why that got moved. But it worked out, in my benefit that I can be on 2 teams this year. So worked out well.
Yeah, that's super cool. And you said it was in India now?
November 5th in India.
That'll be really cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congrats on making both teams.
Thanks. Thank you.
To be able to do it twice in 1 year is definitely
it's bonkers.
That'll be so much fun.
Thanks.
So what experiences, even though it's like a different race, shorter race, like what experiences are you going to take from last year's world champs into this year's world champs in Austria?
By far the coolest thing for me that I just thrived, or I just loved, I thought it was so amazing, was that all of our teams are there at the same time. So the fact that we got to mingle with the juniors, the long trail, short trail, VK, classic, like those teams, and just such a rad group of people all in one spot. Like, I think we all kind of know of each other, but to get to spend time together, I mean, you're just soaking up all the personalities, the quirks, like everybody just got their personalities. So I just felt like that was just so much fun. Last year I got to be the flag bearer in the opening ceremony, and that was like dream come true. Like that was the highlight for sure. So I think for sure the pieces outside of running are highlights that I'm really looking forward to, and just getting to know so many runners and getting to hang out. And then I think one thing I'm proud of from the race in Thailand was I really wanted to make sure I was, and this is what I've been working on in all my racing right now, is just remembering to soak up where we get to run and taking in even just those couple moments, like taking in those moments during racing, because I think we kind of get in our bubble. We kind of forget to just soak up these, like, seriously, like we're racing and looking at these unbelievable places in Thailand and Austria and all these things. I'm like, man, this is what we get to do. This is absurd. So I think just like, that's another intention of mine, is just like really soaking up just these like quick little snapshots in your brain that most people don't get the opportunity to even see. And that's really important to me. And that's what keeps the running and racing fun, is having like just those moments of gratitude throughout. So that's still like a big goal for this race for sure.
Yeah, I think that's great. I had a really bad race at Sears and All last year. And I remember just like being in the race and thinking like, oof, yeah, Sears and All. I just remember being in the race and just being like, oh, look, it's the Matterhorn. Let's just appreciate the Matterhorn. Most people don't get to ever see the Matterhorn in their life.
Yes.
And like, so I think that's such a great goal. Like, whether the race is going well or not, like you got to be in the moment, because we are so lucky to get to do what we do and travel where we travel. And sometimes we definitely take advantage of that, because it's like, oh, this is my job. Like, it's just what I do. But we get to go race in like Austria, and it's going to be freaking beautiful.
Have you been before?
I've been to Innsbruck once, but it was only for like a day or two. And we were so jet lagged that I think we went on like one run. It was like the classic VK route from town. And that was like all we did. We were like just trashed. So I'm stoked to get there with enough time. I don't know when you're planning on being there, but I'm going to be there hopefully like I'm going to be there 10 days early. So I want to like,
awesome,
as much of the course as I can. And
great.
And then we get to obviously run the whole thing in one go for fun.
Oh, awesome. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Are you going to get there early? Or are you hopping in?
I'm just going to get there. Like, I think I fly in on the 4th. And we get to race on my birthday.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So I was like, what a rad birthday. Again, like, it's like a gratitude piece, like how absurd. And like a few years ago, I never would have thought like on my birthday, I'll be racing the world championships in Austria. Like pinch me.
Yeah. That's so cool. And like you were saying earlier, the women's teams that we have like going into this year, the men's teams too, they're important, but we're ladies. So we're going to talk about women here. It's just insane. Like if you look at the people that we got from Sunapee, like having Allie Mack and Grayson on the same team is going to be so cool.
Oh man.
Like the whole experience is going to be crusher. So what are your goals for World Champs this year, other than taking it in, and just being grateful? Like, do you have any specific, not time goals, but place goals or anything like that?
Yeah, I'd love to score for the US again, which is, I think, top 3 or like 3 per country score. So that would be a goal. And just try to contribute to, however we could, if we could get a podium, that would be so rad. Like that is 100% a goal. And I think something that stood out from Worlds last year. So it was Caitlin Gerben, Addie Bracey, Leah Yingling, and myself. And I hadn't really had a team like that since college, maybe. And that helped so much, knowing that your teammates are out there. And we had this like special signal of like, "Caw-caw!" Like on the course, if we kept seeing each other, because we were kind of all leapfrogging for a while. And it was just so comforting hearing that sound coming from your teammates and knowing that we were like all working together, because we really all just kind of kept leapfrogging. So I think that is just like, however we can help keep pushing that team. And like, if we can get on a podium, that would be so rad. Because I think we're so capable and our team is so strong, that would be a goal, is like just trying to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's cool because at Formidable, like Kimber, myself, and Claire were very close together. At Breakneck, you, Bailey, and Claire were very close together. So I just imagine that this is going to like be like a big cross country race, and we're going to like go out as a pack and like work together. Yeah, and that's like my dream situation.
Same.
And I think we can do that because we all finish so close together in these races. I think that podium is definitely a goal of mine as well. And so you got to experience the whole thing last year where it was like a total time instead of just place, which I think is so cool.
Okay. So I was so confused by that. So, and is that what's happening again this year?
I'm not 100% sure. So I don't want to say that is the case, but I hope so, because I think that that's awesome. Like to be out there and be like, okay, I could walk this hill because I'm already in this place, but I got to get these, every second I can matters.
Yeah. Okay. Cause I was so confused by that. I should definitely look into these things before
we all should.
But I 100% agree. Yeah. Let's make that a goal. We'll figure out how they're scoring.
Yes.
Cause I think that that's so important. Okay. Rad. I love that. Yeah. I love that for that exact same reason, is it's just that extra piece of like, I'm going to just give this, you never know what that extra little push could do.
Yeah. And obviously, like you said, having a team makes a huge difference too. When it's not just like you out there wallowing in your own hurt and despair. You're like, no, I got 5 other women out here that I got to show up for.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Cool. So other than World Champs this year, where else will we see you out and about?
So I'm going to take a little. So last year, my year was insane. It started with Disney in January, and then it didn't wrap up until November at World. And I just got wildly burnt out. And I really want to protect that this year, especially since Road Worlds are in November again as well. So I'm going to race Austria, and then I'm just going to kind of play this summer on the trails. I'm going to go up to Alaska for a week. We're hosting a 3-week trek in Spain at the end of July, early August. So I'm just going to kind of play on the trails this summer. I am going to be doing, Disney does a virtual running series every summer. And basically you have to run a 5K in June, July, August, and you get a Disney medal. So I was like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if I went for like a 5K FKT and did it in a Disney costume as my virtual 5K? So this is my grand vision for this summer, because then I'm gonna I'll be back kind of trail maybe like September, and then really I'll be focusing on road for the 50K road championships through the rest of the year. So that's kind of my plan right now, is all of that. So some fun stuff, venturing, and then heading back into like proper training in the fall.
Cool. I know this summer it'll be nice to like have that time in the later summer, because as you know, as I know, the snow is just really going to hang on for a while.
I know, it's like relentless this year.
Yeah. So having the freedom to just play late summer will be nice.
And where are you based?
I'm in Reno, Nevada. So usually by this time of year, I can run most of the trails, but I don't know that we're going to be up around Tahoe until like late summer, which is really not usual.
No, a lot of our high country too is still totally snow packed too. Yeah. So it might be a little while for us too.
Yeah. We're fortunate. We have a mountain like in the north side of town that in most winters you can run on it all year round. We couldn't this winter, but most of it is dried out now. And so I can at least train on that mountain. That's good. In the meantime, and it's steep enough. So
that's where I know I've just been bopping to Boulder. Yeah. I was in Boulder this morning. It's just kind of like whether it's repeats or whatever you have to do, like just whatever you have at this time of year. It's kind of a weird time of year.
Yeah. I did double P-vine this weekend just to get in some vert, because the most I can get in one go right now is like 3,000 feet. So I just have to keep
kind of more than I can get. I'm like,
yeah, it's not bad.
Pretty much like 2,000. That's great.
Yeah. And Claire Rhodes is living in Reno now. So she did one of the laps with me, and it was nice. We're stoked to be on the team together.
I'm so glad that she made the team.
Me too. She's so tough.
And young. Like, yes, man, she's got a lot ahead of her.
Yeah. I have not taken advantage of having her in town enough, because she's just here for grad school. And I just train by myself mostly. So I'm used to that. And so I've been like trying to train with her more frequently, because it's like, she finished right behind you in this race. Like, you guys should be running together more often.
Totally. Oh, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. So I'm excited for Austria. I will see you in 3 weeks. Thanks for joining. I'm definitely going to put this YouTube channel in the show notes.
Oh my God.
As well as your Instagram. Are you on Strava?
I am on Strava. Yep.
Okay. So everybody go follow Brittany on Instagram and Strava, and waste your time on her YouTube videos.
Waste a lot of time. And I apologize for the content on there ahead of time.
Oh man, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany. And
thank you.
The Sub Hub podcast brought to you by Freetrail. Welcome to the Sub Hub podcast. I'm MK Sullivan.
And I'm Danny Moreno. And today we have Garrett Corcoran. He recently won the Breakneck Marathon in Beacon, New York in 3:55. By winning, he earned his spot on the marathon team for the World Championships in Innsbruck in a couple of weeks, early June. He did this after doubling and earning his spot also on the VK team, where he was 5th at the Sunapee VK, 4th American overall. And then also, just a side note to show his range, he also won the JFK 50 miler end of last year. And to me and to us, that kind of was a big result that got his name on everyone's radar. So welcome, Garrett.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're just wondering, we know that you qualified for both the vertical and the mountain team. Are you going to do both in Austria, or are you picking one or the other?
No, I'm just going to do the marathon out there. I had originally thought I was only going to do the VK since they're back-to-back days, and I don't think I'll be able to come back after running the VK and run a good marathon, but got talked into it after I finished. To drop the VK and do the marathon instead. So hopefully I can recover pretty well for Broken Arrow 10 days later.
So how did you get talked into it?
Max King came over and had a pretty long talk with me after the award ceremony, and was pretty convinced I could do better in the marathon VK. And I talked with Dan Kurtz after words also. And he was pretty convinced I could probably do better in the marathon than in the VK also. So it was mostly that. And also I have a little bit more fun with the marathon distance than the VK anyway. It's a big pain train for 30 to 40 minutes running a vertical race and not a lot of time to stop and take in everything that's going around you. So excited to take a little more time on the race.
Danny and I are also not huge fans of the VK.
I like having time to make moves. I feel like in the VK, it's like so fast, but slow-mo at the same time. You're like, I'm making a move. And you're like one step ahead another person.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, if I was being given advice from Max Keene, I also would probably listen very intently, but that's really cool. And probably a huge compliment that, he took that time to talk to you. And then you had like him as kind of like the older guard. Hopefully he doesn't take that as a disrespectful comment, as respectful. And Dan Kurtz, also part of the new guard with yourself, kind of both chatting it up and going over that. So you were one of only a couple people who doubled in the short course weekend, right? With like VK and or short course, and then also doing the marathon. How was it doing those back to back? And like, which course did you like better, or you think was better suited for you?
I guess, are you referring to both the vertical and the classic, or the Sunapee Scramble and Breakneck Point?
Sunapee Scramble versus Breakneck Point.
Okay. It was something I'd put on my schedule right when all the qualifiers were announced. With the World Championships being so early in the year, everything was really early. And after JFK, I had wanted to take a couple of months down and not really do much. So I looked through all the qualifiers and just wanted to give myself a few chances to get on the team. So I signed up for both of those, and it had been in my mind for 5 months. So I had been pretty prepared for it mentally. It was really nice spending a week out east in between the two. I felt like I came out of Sunapee Scramble feeling still pretty good because they weren't that long of races. I was definitely sore from running the classic the Sunday out there. But not so much that I felt like I couldn't come back. It was nice to spend a week just not really doing anything. I didn't take any work out there. I was just hanging out with Michelino Sinceri for the whole 10 days we were out there, and a couple of my friends from Salt Lake came out. So got to experience some new places. We went climbing in between and the Gunks over in upstate New York near New Paltz, and we were staying there for a few days. Got rained on every day, which was a little disappointing. So I was really looking forward to some sunshine and some warmth, because out here in Salt Lake City where I live, it's been a long winter, and I was really thankful for all the snow we got. But it was exciting to get on some dry trails too, because the trails just melted out within the last few weeks out here. But yeah, by the time Breakneck came around, I felt pretty fully recovered from the Sunapee races. I'd have a tough time really pushing myself to that point where like I can really be totally spent after 30 minutes. So I felt like the recovery was pretty quick. And as far as the courses went, like Breakneck was everything I was led to believe the East Coast is like. It was some true East Coast terrain. It was rocky the whole way. Like when I was looking at the course profile, I figured like they take pictures in all the really picturesque and like gnarly looking spots where it's all rocky, and like they went and took all the pictures at like the scrambling parts where we had hands on rock. But even outside of that, it was still super rocky the whole way, which was not really my forte. With a like track and road background, I don't really consider myself a very good technical downhill runner. Like most of my running partners out here drop me every time we go down hills and make fun of me all the time. So going into Breakneck, I didn't have very high expectations, just being able to keep up on all the downhills. But luckily I was able to put some distance between me and other people on the climbs and run well enough going downhill that I was able to stay ahead. And yeah, it was super fun. I guess I didn't say anything about the course at Sunapee, but yeah, the vertical course was also like super cool, super rocky for like the last 2.5 miles of it. But it was nice to have that 1.5 miles of road, because all I had done to train over the winter was run a lot of repeats on asphalt roads. So it was nice to have that 1.5 miles to push the pace before we got to the technical stuff, and hope I had a gap to stay ahead of people before everything got really rocky and technical.
Yeah. And I feel like not only is it rocky and technical, but there's always leaves on top of the rocks, and it just makes your like brain and eyes so tired. I like ran a race once in Arkansas, and I just remember like getting halfway through it and being like, I just want to close my eyes for like 2 seconds or like zone out.
Especially in the fall. That's a big issue I had at JFK. I rolled my ankle pretty bad about 12 miles into that one just because I couldn't see where I was stepping and went straight through the leaves onto the edge of a rock and, screamed and limped for a couple of miles and then got dropped by the lead pack. We were going downhill. But, that's part of running out there, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it is nice that they put it a week apart so that you could take the time, try to qualify for either team instead of having to like fly out to New York twice or the East Coast twice. And so you're originally from California. You ran for Cal in college. He's a sub-4 miler for those of you who don't know. And I'm just wondering, how did you end up in Salt Lake? Because you're kind of an SLUT, as you guys call each other, or call yourselves these days.
I ended up out here, I guess, through work. After I graduated from college, I kind of hung up the track spikes and didn't run I didn't run step for a few months and started a job with Northrop Grumman, the same company I'm with now, out in Baltimore. And they had a job out in Salt Lake City that I was interested in working about 2.5 years ago, just before the pandemic broke out. Or I guess it was 3 years ago now. So I had a friend that was at grad school at the University of Utah, and I came out here to do a ski trip at Jackson Hole with him. And after I was done with the trip, I went and met my future manager and basically interviewed for the job that I got out here. And it was funny. He like walked me around the facility and let me ask questions for an hour, and then at the end just asked if I wanted the job. It wasn't even like, it was more like I was interviewing him than he was interviewing me. But came out here and been out here for a little over 2.5 years. I came out in September 2020, and it's been a lot of fun. This is where I really like got introduced to the trail and ultra scene, and it's been a good journey so far.
And could you share like what it is that you're doing now?
I worked for Northrop Grumman. They're a defense contractor. I'm a systems engineer. The program I'm currently working on is basically replacing the nuclear missiles we have in the ground all over the middle of the country for a new updated system. And I don't know if you can hear right now, but we're next to an Air Force base and there's F-35s flying overhead all the time. So it gets a little loud.
That's so cool. I didn't even know there was an Air Force base in Salt Lake. So you learn something new every day.
Yeah, it's about 30 miles north of the city.
Gotcha.
Close enough that I can live in Salt Lake.
And so you said that you got kind of into the trail and ultra scene when you moved to Salt Lake. Were you just looking for running partners and the ones you ended up finding were on trails, or how did that happen?
Yeah, pretty much. After I had graduated from college, like I said, I had kind of hung up the running shoes for a little while. But when I moved to a new city, when I was living out east, I kind of realized that my favorite social activity is running. So that's how I made a lot of my friends out there. And when I moved out here, it was the same thing. I found a roommate on Facebook who said he ran a lot and lived next door to some guys who hosted long runs and pancakes afterwards. So that was kind of how I chose the spot that I ended up living in. And like just through those social connections, I met a lot of people really quickly in the trail scene. And I really liked trails when I first moved out here because I wasn't really looking to run very competitively, but it's kind of a scene where like you just kind of go on a lot of adventures and don't really need to sign up for races to enjoy everything it has to offer anyway. And eventually I got talked into running some races, and that's kind of brought me to where I'm at today.
Classic. That's the best part about mountain running, though, is the lack of too much structure.
Oh yeah.
Coming from the track background for sure. And so I'm curious, we saw your schedule on your Instagram. And so tell us a little bit about your upcoming season and how you ended up choosing all these races.
I after I ran JFK last year, I got pretty excited just because I had done pretty well in a trail race. And it was like, I'm going to sign up for like as many as I can next year because I'm really excited about the social aspect of racing. And, I've kind of lost the competitive fire before, and I wanted to make sure I really did what I could to keep it going while I have it. So I signed up for Sunapee and Breakneck, which just happened, and I'll be out in Austria in a couple of weeks. And after that, I'm running Broken Arrow, 6 of the Cirque Series races, Pikes Peak, Ascent, Mammoth Trail Fest, 26K, and I'm also signed up for the Moab Half Marathon. I picked a lot of sub-ultra distances just because it's easier to recover and race more frequently. I also don't want to move up in distances from like 50K, 50 miles yet. I still have a lot to figure out with like the nutrition stuff, and you can kind of get away with not feeling as well during the race in sub-ultra stuff. So, you use this time to figure all that stuff out and go and run a lot of races, meet a lot of new people, and hopefully just get my name out there a little bit. So I'm looking forward to doing all that. I'm excited that most of the Cirque Series races are either in Utah or within a couple hours drive. So I don't really have to go too far for most of those, which is pretty nice for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask because you have a lot of, your first race was a marathon, and then you had, or it looks like it, and then you had some 50Ks, 100K at Canyons, a couple more 50Ks, a 50 miler. And then I was really excited about your schedule just because everything looks much shorter than that. But yeah, the fueling is definitely a learning curve. And if you want to race more often, then those shorter races are quite nice. You have, so you have the Golden Trail World Series. Is that something that is done intently, like regarding the series itself, or you just were interested in those specific races individually?
Yeah, I was looking at the Golden Trail National Series. So it was nice that Breakneck Point was also a part of that. So, I could get some points en route to the marathon. And then Broken Arrow was also something I wanted to race anyway, but it was nice that it was part of the series. So then after I realized I was running 2 of them, I decided to go sign up for Pikes Peak and Mammoth, which I ran Mammoth last year in the 50K, and it was a super well put on event. And Tim Tolfson's a great guy, super nice. So I wanted to get back out there again, but excited to race a different distance this year, see a slightly different course. But yeah, I definitely also had that in mind, the Golden Trail like National Series when I signed up for those. So excited to go and compete with some of the better guys out there. It'll be fun to go compete with Eli Hemming again a couple more times, but running the same distance as him in the future.
Yeah, that was something that I didn't understand until I was just looking at the results before we started recording. So Garrett also got 4th in the half marathon on the way to finishing the marathon. So the half marathon gives you points for the Golden Trail National Series. So even though he still ran the full marathon, he had a really high placing in the half, therefore getting points towards Golden Trail. I was looking at that and I was so confused, but that's really cool.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize they did that. That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. The race director changed it a month or 2 out from Breakneck Point after they announced that it was part of the Golden Trail National Series, which was great for me because I was going to email him and ask him if I could just do the half if I made it in the vertical or the up down. And then it was all part of the same race anyway. So I didn't have to make any sort of choice. So when I was running Breakneck, I was just running the first half without even thinking about the second half coming up anyway. And then, if I blew up in the second half, it didn't really matter as much to me.
Yeah, because you already had a spot.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Did you feel like that helped push you having Eli there? Did you cue off of him, or you kind of just had your own race plan the entire time?
I had wanted to go for the win in the half marathon before we got to the start line that day. Me and the 2 guys that I was going to the race with, showed up to the start line about 30 seconds before the race started. So we parked like a mile away and didn't start running towards the start line until 6:22, and the race start was 6:30. And we were kind of jogging over. Then Nicolino Sanseri starts pushing the pace. And I was like, dude, why are you running so fast? We're trying to warm up. We're about to run a race. He's like, dude, we're not going to make it in time. We're just like sprinting down this hill to get to the start line. So I didn't feel super warm when we started. And I made it with Eli and Liam for the first like mile of the first climb, and started feeling really bad and dropped off. And I didn't see him again for the rest of the half. And then Max King came by me, and he actually ended up getting second in the half marathon en route to running the marathon too. So when he went by me and a couple other guys that were running the marathon also caught up, I was just like, man, this is not my day. Like I'm not going to do super well. But as time went on, started feeling a lot better.
This seems kind of like a theme, because you said something similar about JFK where you like rolled your ankle and all these dudes roll by you, but you end up winning the race anyways. So
yeah, and with JFK, I really just knew I needed to get to the tow path, and then it would be showtime. And by the time that happened, when I rolled my ankle, I was only a couple miles from the tow path anyway. But out at Breakneck, yeah, like I felt really bad on the climbs the first like 6 miles, and also rolled my ankle a few times coming down the first couple of downhills, and guys were going by me, but I just continued to feel pretty good on the climbs out there. So, it all worked out.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, I'm assuming the answer to this question is probably no, just based off of the way that you're talking about like training in Salt Lake and stuff. But do you currently have a coach, or do you just kind of do things on your own?
No, I don't have a coach. I've put on my Strava quite a few times that I'm just coached by the Great Oyo in the Sky, which is where me and all my college teammates said we were going to go off to when we finished running. Like everything's on your own. I talk with my coach from college every once in a while, and she's thrown me workouts a couple of times, and I'll kind of take them into consideration and maybe do them like 2 months after she suggests I do them. But she hasn't been coaching me. It's just, we most of the time we talk, it's not about running at all, and it just kind of comes up really quickly. But I enjoy having like a less structured training schedule out here. It's a lot easier for me to feel out how I feel every day, rather than having somebody who's not around to see what I look like when I'm running, trying to figure out like, what's a good workout for me to do, or like when I should do the workouts. Because most of my training, I'll put like big ranges on my easy days. Like I'll go anywhere from like 8 to 14 miles each day, for example. And, if I'm feeling bad while starting the run, I'll probably just end up running 8 miles. But, if I'm having fun on a good adventure, it might end up a little longer. And the workouts are kind of the same way. Like I know I want to do 2 workouts in a given week, but I don't know what day. I have to kind of feel out when I actually feel recovered for them. But that makes it a lot easier for me to schedule in a lot of other social things and work along with running. So it's been working pretty well for me. I have some friends in Salt Lake who have coaches and need to do workouts on particular days. And they keep coming to me saying like, they're getting burnt out. They're tired of sacrificing things. And I try to suggest to them just speaking a little bit of the structure out. Like you can still have structure and, not be giving up a lot of things. So, and that's kind of the balance that I've been able to find for me personally. And some people need a little bit more guidance. So I totally understand that. But, the loose structure is kind of what I found I really enjoy.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a balancing act. So who was your coach at Cal?
Shayla Houlihan.
Okay, that's what I figured. She's great.
Yeah, she's the coach down in Santa Barbara now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually my alma mater. So when I go home, I see her there on the track sometimes at UCSB. So that's really cool. So as far as like the sport, you dabbled in some ultras, now you're doing the shorter stuff. Like, what do you kind of foresee yourself like this year and say like the next couple of years? Do you think you're gonna, keep going after it with this same energy? Are you looking to get a sponsor and like, pursue it full time? I guess just like, what are you trying to get out of the sport right now?
Oh man. I don't usually think that far ahead, so not 100% sure, but yeah, I mean, right now in the moment, I'm just trying to keep a hold of that competitive fire that I've currently got, and then going into the future, I guess I'll see how I feel at the end of this season, and eventually I'd like to probably go and dabble in longer distances again, but it's nice to be able to jump between distances at the moment. As far as a sponsor goes, like I've had this conversation with a lot of people recently, because even after JFK, a lot of people were asking me like, "Oh, is anybody reaching out to like sponsor you?" And at the time, like I didn't have a good understanding of how the scene worked, but I knew I'd probably have to reach out if I wanted to find a sponsor. And I guess it's not something that's I'm prioritizing super highly right now. Like I make enough money in my day job and I have enough flexibility that I can still do all this stuff and not feel like I'm sacrificing a whole lot or burning out. I'm kind of mostly doing all this stuff for me and not for anybody else. So I don't feel like that's the sponsor isn't something that I'm placing on a pedestal and something that I really need. But at the same time, it would be awesome to get a little bit more support and recognition for what I'm doing. So, eventually I hope I just, through running enough races, I'll probably meet people when I'm at the races and start some good conversations while I'm there. I don't really expect myself to start sending a bunch of cold call emails, kind of begging for a sponsorship, but if I, find the right kind of company, the right brand that kind of aligns with the image that I'm trying to cultivate for myself, and doesn't require me to change my values or my presentation of myself a whole lot. Like that's what I would be looking for.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's good to have what you value the most top of mind and then let the pieces come to you. I also feel like the sport is kind of like in this weird phase where there's some aspects of it that are maturing really quickly and other aspects that are still kind of like catching up. And one of them, I think, is the whole sponsor engagement and like how that occurs, because we don't really have agents in like a plethora of agents right now. There's only a couple in this space. And so it's this odd, like you're explaining, like this dance of, do I reach out? Do I wait for them to reach out? But I think you're approaching it in like a really healthy way of you don't need it, and then I think that opens actually more doors for you so that when the right one comes, like you'll be ready for it. So that's exciting. I also really liked how you said, because I think this is important for people. And one of the reasons why we started this podcast with like, you already did long stuff. Now you're going back to short stuff. Like that's okay. And it's okay to then go back and do long stuff again. I think sometimes in trail running, people pigeonhole themselves. They're like, oh, I ran 100K. I can't run 20Ks anymore. Like that. It doesn't work like that because we're so used to the natural progression. So I love that you're willing and you're open to going back and forth. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Because I feel like Danny and I kind of both ended up doing that this year where we were like, we're going to start this podcast about sub ultra stuff. And then like, we're barely running sub ultras this year. It like turned into the year of the 50K for me. And so, but like next year, like I don't plan on probably running a single 50K. So it's like all over the place. So final question, what, if any, do you have any goals for Worlds? It's just a couple weeks away now. When this episode comes out, I think it'll be like 2 weeks away. Or do you have a race plan?
I guess the race plan's somewhat similar to how I approach Breakneck. Just try to get out hard and don't blow up. I like putting myself in the race, so I don't like starting super slow and letting the race get away with me and just get away from me and hoping that people will come back, which like a lot of people do end up coming back in ultras, but there's always at least a couple that can run away with it. Like the same thing happened to one of my friends from Salt Lake when he went out to Formidable in February. He let the whole pack go and everybody except for two came back, and John and Craig ended up, I think Craig was like 5 minutes ahead of my friend Jacob, and when he had finished in third. But like, if you let the whole group go, you're never going to put yourself in contention to win. So obviously I don't want to like get out sprinting like I'm running a VK, but definitely want to have everybody in eyesight. But at the same time, like I haven't looked at the entry list for any of the races I've run since I started running trail races. So I'm not going to be queuing off with anybody else in the race because the only people that I know are going to be in the race are my American teammates. But it'll be nice to hopefully be able to work together with those guys and start moving past people from other countries. But yeah, not going in with these super high expectations, but I'd like to put myself in contention.
Yeah. Just go play some big kid cross country.
Pretty much.
Well, we're excited to see you out there, and I'm excited to see you out there in person. Garrett and I will be teammates on the short trail team. So obviously I'm on the women's team, not the men's team, but still, thanks so much for joining us today, and congratulations again on your U.S. Marathon Championship, and we'll see you in Austria.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. See you in Austria.
Yeah. This has been the Sub Hub brought to you by Freetrail.